Yeah, I have one Purple Heart officially, but the other one, I was injured multiple times in Iraq. So
Okay.
my Purple Heart has the date of the first incidences and then the year of the second incident. So
So tell me
it's
about the
yeah.
first incident. What happened
That
that
was
day?
2006 from um, April to May, April to May time frame. That was when we were in the city of Fallujah, Garma, Fallujah. We were doing all of our combat operations. I was with 3rd LAR, and we were getting hit by IEDs all the freaking time. I mean, we were getting everywhere we went. Those IEDs. The first time I ever got hit, I remember being I was in the back of this vehicle, and it was there was so much dirt in the air that the windows were caked, so you couldn't see outside of them, and you kind of just had to stay mentally disciplined to not freak out because you don't know what's going on, you can't see what's happening outside, and IEDs were an imminent threat, they were inevitable, and so the first time it ever happened, I remember the gunner up top was saying, oh, he was saying, oh man, all the kids are clearing out of the street, something's going to happen. So he noticed that there was no kids, and when it's the middle of the day and the streets are empty, that means there's an IED there. And when the kids aren't playing soccer and stuff, that means that there's an IED there. They've been told to evacuate because it's about to go down. And so that was the first time I ever got hit by an IED, and it was a remote detonation. Somebody was sitting there watching us, and we didn't find who they were, and that was just insane. It happened so fast that I remember waking up, and we were all in shock. We're like, "What just happened? Did we just get hit?" So our vehicle kept rolling. It popped us up in the air and threw us, but the vehicle kept rolling. So we went away that night. I went back and I wrote in my journal. I wrote a letter back to my family because I'd already lost my cousin, and I wrote back to my family, and it set in that I could really die here. This is, my life could actually end here, and that's kind of like, I was what, 21 years old, and coming to grip my own mortality and having to write death letters, saying goodbye to my family. It was a very emotional thing to do, but I had to push it all down and just keep trucking. So. Um, and then the second incident was the same thing, same area, but it blew up in front of us too early before we ran over it. And the third incident was a side hit. It hit us on the side. Luckily, on that second deployment, I was in an LAV, which is a very well insulated or very well armored. So I got a bursted eardrum, and my traumatic brain injury started then. And we'll go to the big one. The one that I actually got the Purple Heart for was in 2007. That one was really, really bad. So
What happened?
this was June 22nd, and we were on the north side of on the west side of Iraq, and we were by the Euphrates River, and we were traveling north to go do this mission to go help a fob out. A fob is a little tiny, just a couple Marines hanging out around some barbed wire, in the middle of the desert, and so there was these two sand dunes, and you knew that when you came to these two sand dunes, if you went between them due north for 2 miles, there was the fob. And so whoever was observing us realized that all the Marines, every time they went to that base, they used that land marker. And so some smart ass, sorry, somebody put a landmine there, And so I was the third vehicle in that convoy. So one vehicle passed the landmine, a second vehicle passed the landmine, and I was the third one, and our front right tire hit that landmine. And so I remember a lot of that one. I remember a whole lot of what happened. I remember three flashes, just microseconds, but time seemed to go very slow. It was like the first thing is let me back up before I even say that. That morning, I woke up from like a really crazy nightmare. That I had this nightmare that I was on this pier, and there was this cruise ship, and everybody that I loved was going down to this pier to get on this cruise ship, and this invisible hand picked up this ship and started slamming it on the ocean or on the water, and I don't know what it was, but I knew that something really awful was going to happen that day. And so I ran onto the ship, and the dream goes on and on, but it was an awful dream. It was an extremely intense dream. And I woke up screaming out of my sleep, And at the same time, somebody was banging on my door saying, "Corporal, let's go. We're going on a mission." So this is about 5 in the morning. I wake up and I just knew in my gut that something bad was going to happen. And I learned that was my third tour, the one where I really got injured badly. So that was my third tour. I'd already been in a combat environment, and I'd been, so I knew like my intuitions were strong. I knew to trust my intuitions. So with that one, I knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that something very bad was going to happen that day. So basically, I went to all my Humvees and I started writing this Bible verse called this Psalms 121, as kind of praying for each vehicle so that we'd make it back. Because I just knew something was going to happen. And so I got back in my vehicle and we went on the convoy, and we were on the road for hours, and it's really bumpy. And I'm reading this book, and all of a sudden I hear like this voice tell me, "Look up, it's coming." And I knew that it wasn't anybody in the vehicle telling me that. Something said, "Look up, it's coming." And so I knew that was it. So I shut the book, and as the moment I shut the book, we run over the landmine and it exploded. And I remember the first thing I saw was that everything, I was completely engulfed in fire. There was fire everywhere. And then we were all turning to the left this way. And then the next thing, my face was shooting out blood. And I remember it coming out in slow motion like this. And my head was slamming against the seat in front of me, like very rapidly. And my night vision goggle mount had actually broken in half because I was hit so hard in the head. That's where my traumatic brain injury comes from, I believe. So the next thing I know, I'm upside down, and I wasn't even I was knocked out so bad. I was knocked out for more than 5 minutes. I didn't realize it, but I had been burned and I had shrapnel, and I had broken my nose and cracked my jaw, and both my eardrums exploded, and I had a lower spine injury as well. And so I was hanging upside down, and my vision came slowly like this, and it was just like water in my eyes, and I couldn't hear anything at all. And little by then, some adrenaline shot through my body, and I realized I'm upside down, so I plopped on the ground. My vehicle's hanging in a crater, and I got on the ground to check. First thing I did is I checked my arms and my legs, and then I knew I had a really bad pain in my arm because I had a piece of metal in there, but I didn't look at it. And I decided instantly to just block that out of my mind and not feel it. And I needed to take care of my guys around me. So I was so disoriented from that bomb that I couldn't, everything was like water. Like the sky was water. It was like, looked like jello, and I felt like jello, and I couldn't stand up straight. And adrenaline just took over, and I saw my driver was very badly injured, and my gunner was running back and forth. And then the gunnery sergeant, the guy in front of us, or in the front right seat, right where the tire hit, he had completely lost his memory. He had no idea who he was. He had been so badly concussed, his eyes were just tiny little pinpoints, And so I had to take care of him. So I grabbed my PFC, the gunner, the Lions, and I made him take care of the gunnery sergeant. I was asking him, what's your name? What day is it? Where are we right now? And he couldn't answer any of these questions. So I realized, his back was to the vehicle. I realized if he turned around and saw that vehicle, he was going to panic, and I had a whole lot more to deal with. So I got Lions to just hold him and hold his face and keep asking him questions and not let him turn around. And so Lions took care of him. Then I went to go find our driver, Black Couture, and he was laying on the ground. I first thought he was dead, so I didn't bother with him, and I wanted to help the other guys out. But when I went back over there, it turns out he was just knocked out, but he had completely shattered his entire left leg. So what happened, when we were all turning left, his leg came out of the vehicle. When the explosion was over, all the air sucked back in, and the door slammed on his leg and completely shattered. I mean, a Humvee door takes about 5 strong guys to lift up. You can't, it's very heavy, and that thing just demolished his leg. So we had to splint his leg. I had to give him gauze to bite on to splint his leg up, and it was just awful. He thought he was dying, And I remember, his girlfriend back home was pregnant. I mean, this kid's 19, young kid, doesn't even shave, And I remember he's laying on the ground, he's just crying and saying he's sorry, and he's just in so much pain, and he thought he was dying. I told him he wasn't going to die that day, and I told him, you can't die because you have a daughter back home. What are you going to name her? And he said, I'm going to name her Elena. And so I go, you need to be strong for Elena and you need to stay with us. Okay, you got to stay strong for her. And so his attitude changed. Even though he was in all that pain, he was able to channel that and think of his daughter and pull through and get with it. And so, and I remember to this day, like I see pictures of that little girl, man, and just like, it makes me emotional just to see her, because I remember that little girl smiling, is the reason that he held on. And, that's really something beautiful, and it's just, it's really amazing that he made it through. So, but he was sent back to America, and I stayed. The helicopter came and took us away, and I was in and out of different hospitals for multiple different things for about a month. So I had severe PTSD, very, very, very bad PTSD. I mean, it was. I can remember what it was like. I mean, I'd say I'm perfectly normal now, but I can remember what it was like to feel like the way when PTSD is at its full peak and it's completely hijacked your person, and it's just this thing that is processing through you and takes over your whole life, and that is just that's the crazy. It's hard to tell you how how hard it is and how all encompassing and how overwhelming it becomes, and it just completely takes over your entire life, you know. So um, I had to go to mental health counseling while I was in Iraq, and that was like the best thing that could have ever happened to me because um, you know, every day, multiple times a day, I had to go see a counselor, you know, and I hadn't really had time to talk to anybody about my second deployment because I only had 5 months between seeing combat, coming home, training up, and then shipping back out for my third tour. So that was the first time that I actually got to unload and have somebody help me, you know, and I remember just, it felt so good to just talk for the first time. And it was scary and it was crazy because I had been through quite a lot of stuff, you know, but I knew that that catharsis I felt from just letting it go and talking to somebody about it, it became addictive, and I wanted more of it, and I wanted to get better. And you know, I realized in retrospect that I had been living with PTSD this whole time from my second tour, and it only got worse, and I didn't do anything about it. And so Iraq, when I was going to counseling there, it really helped, but it was for a short period of time. Um, I then went back to America, and when you come back from a deployment, they make you stand outside of the doc's office, you know, the medic's office, and before you can go home and see your family, they have this check sheet, and they say, you know, are you having nightmares? Do you want to kill anybody? Do you want to kill yourself? You know, do you think you have PTSD? Are you having anxiety? And, you know, you're in line. The thing standing between you and going home is this checklist. And of course, you're going to say, no, 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 no. You know, you're going to say, I'm perfectly fine. So you can just get out the door and go home, you know, which is not the best model if you want people to be honest and open with you, you know, and you're standing in a line like it's a checkup or something, you know. And so the second tour, I said, no, I'm perfectly fine. This time I was like, no, I'm not doing well. I need help. I need to go see a counselor. And so they enrolled me into this awesome program where I did martial arts, I did individual and group therapy, all, like every day, and it really helped me because um, it's like the Marine Corps knew that I was suffering, and they put 100% into helping me get better. And if it weren't for that, I wouldn't be who I am today, you know. So that was a great help from the Marine Corps. And I got out. Well, I'm going on and on and
No,
on.
it's all right.
Yeah.
No, you're doing
Oh
fine.
yeah. So
But tell me more about the
yeah.
transition when you got out. Did the injuries lead to your discharge, or was that something you did when your enlistment was up? Or?
You know, I actually had an opportunity to get medically retired, but I passed it up, and I regret that now. It was a dumb decision, but I didn't know any better, you know. So I just wanted to finish out my time. I was told that if I wanted to get